Good day, everyone. I'm Rovic Andrei, Bustamante, students from Bachelor of Science of Computer Science, first year, and this is the final requirements in Introduction to Computing. So, I want you to know what is the purpose of this video. So, the purpose of this video is to identify what is motherboard and its function, and what are the components or parts of the motherboard. So, let's start. So, what is a motherboard? So, a motherboard is the main circuit board in a computer system. So, it connects all of the internal components like the memory, processor, graphics card, and other hardware. So, motherboard it also provides power to each component and allows them to communicate with each other. So, the motherboard is key part of any computer, and its importance cannot be overstated. So, how does a motherboard work? So, the motherboard is essentially responsible for connecting all the different components inside of a computer together. So, it has connector for just about every type of component, from RAM to USB port. So, by connecting these components together, it allows them to communicate with one another so that your computer can do what you want it to do. So, what are the components and parts of the motherboard? So, first is the BIOS. So, the main use of BIOS is to act as a middleman between OSes and the hardware they run on. So, BIOS is theoretically always the intermediary between the microprocessor and the I/O or input and output device, control information and data flow. Although in some cases, BIOS can arrange for data to flow directly to memory from devices such as video cards that require faster data flow to be effective. How does BIOS work? So BIOS work is comes included with computers as firmware on a chip on the motherboard. In contrast, as OS like Windows or iOS can either be pre-installed by the manufacturer or vendor or installed by the user. So BIOS is a program that is made accessible to the microprocessor. Next parts or components of the motherboard is North Bridge and South Bridge. So North Bridge is a chip that is part of a computer's motherboard, and it plays a crucial role in connecting the processor, memory, and high-speed peripheral. So what does the North Bridge do? So the North Bridge acts as a communication hub between the processor and other components of the computer system, including the memory, graphics card, and some peripheral devices. And why is the North Bridge important in the motherboard? Because the North Bridge is important because it allows the processor to communicate quickly and efficiently with other essential components of the computer system such as the memory and graphics card. So, what are the main functions of the North Bridge? The main functions of the Node Bridge has several key functions, including controlling the flow of data between the processor and memory, and managing the interface between the processor and the graphics card, and handling the high-speed communication between the processor and other peripherals. So, next is South Bridge. So, what is South Bridge? South Bridge is a component found on a computer's motherboard. It is responsible for managing various peripheral devices connected to the computer, such as universal serial bus or yung USB, and audio ports, serial ports, and more. Think of it as the traffic cop of computer coordinating and controlling the flow of data between different components. So, what is the purpose of the Southbridge? So, Southbridge main purpose is to handle the input or output functions of the computer. It acts as a bridge between the central processing unit or CPU and other peripheral devices, facilitating communication and data transfer. So, without the Southbridge, your computer would have a hard time interacting with external devices. So, what are some common peripheral devices that the Southbridge manages? So, the Southbridge manages has a wide range of peripheral devices. So it handles universal serial bus or your USB ports, which allow you to connect devices like keyboards, mice, printers, and external storage devices to your computer. And it also manages audio ports, enabling you to connect speakers, headphones, and microphones. So additionally, it handles serial devices and parallel ports used for connecting other devices as well as the integrated graphics on some motherboard. So, do you think South Bridge and North Bridge are same? So, is the South Bridge and North Bridge are not same? So, no. The South Bridge and the South Bridge are two separate components on a computer motherboard. So, while the South Bridge focuses on input and output functions. So the North Bridge ES handles the memory controller and the high speed communication between the central processing unit or CPU and random access memory or yung RAM. So the North Bridge is responsible for managing tasks that require high-speed data transfer while South Bridge handles lower peripheral related tasks. So that's the difference between North Bridge and South Bridge. So next components in the motherboard is are the slot. First is the RAM. So a RAM slot, also known as RAM socket, is a long slim slot on the motherboard of a PC. So this allows a RAM module of varying speeds and capacity to accommodate that. So most motherboards have either two or four of these memory banks. So each slot has a maximum RAM capacity usually between 8 and 32 gigabytes depending on your CPU and motherboard combination. So the RAM slot on motherboards are numbered. So this way you know which slots to insert the memory modules into. So often they are also colored differently and sometimes is slightly offset from each other. So both help you to place the modules correctly according to the motherboard manufacturer's specification. So the next slot is the expansion slot. So what is an expansion slot? So an expansion slot is a socket on a computer motherboard that allows you to add additionally components to your system. So these slots are used to expand the capabilities of your computer and can be used to add new functionality to your system. And the next components on the motherboard is are the ports. So first is yung back panel port. So what is a back panel? The back panel is the part of a device or equipment located at the rear side. It contains various ports, connectors, switches, and buttons that allows you to connect and interact with other devices or components. So this is the picture of the back panel port. So the green one is for the mouse connector, and the next one is for the keyboard connector, and the next is for the serial communications port, and this one is for parallel port, and next is for the VGA port, and this is for the audio out jack, and this one is line in jack, and this one is for microphone jack, and this part is for USB 2.0 ports, and this part is for game or MIDI port, and this one is for the LAN port. So that is the different parts of the back panel ports. So if you choose a motherboard, is pick the right one for you. So that's all. Thank you.